Marcus Wellington adjusted his gold Rolex as he entered Bella Court, Chicago's most exclusive restaurant on Michigan Avenue. The 34-year-old tech mogul commanded attention wherever he went, his perfectly tailored Italian suit and confident stride announcing his wealth to everyone present. He had built a multi-million-dollar software empire from nothing, and he never let anyone forget the power that came with his success. "Table for one, Mr. Wellington," the hostess smiled nervously, knowing his reputation well throughout the upscale establishment. Marcus barely acknowledged her presence, his cold blue eyes already scanning the elegant dining room with practiced superiority and obvious disdain. Waitress Jennifer approached with her warmest professional smile. "Good evening, Mr. Wellington. May I start you with our finest wine selection tonight?" "Just bring me the usual order," Marcus interrupted sharply, not bothering to look up from his expensive smartphone. "And make absolutely sure the wine isn't that cheap garbage you people served me last week. I don't pay these premium prices for amateur service from incompetent staff." Jennifer's friendly smile faltered noticeably, but she maintained her professional composure despite the public humiliation. "Of course, sir. Right away." As she turned to walk toward the kitchen, Marcus called out loudly enough for nearby tables to hear clearly, "And tell those cooks I want my steak absolutely perfect this time. Last week it was completely overcooked and inedible. Do you people even understand what medium rare actually means?" Other elegant diners turned to stare uncomfortably as Jennifer's face reddened with deep embarrassment. She nodded quietly and hurried toward the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly as she carefully wrote down his demanding order. Marcus smirked with satisfaction, pleased with asserting his social dominance over the working class. In his carefully constructed world, money meant absolute power, and power meant never having to show basic respect to those he considered beneath his elevated status. He had worked ruthlessly to climb from his humble middle-class roots, and now he made sure everyone knew exactly where they stood in his personal hierarchy of human worth. As the evening progressed steadily, Marcus's abusive behavior grew increasingly worse and more public. When waitress Sarah accidentally brushed against his expensive sleeve while carefully serving the elaborate appetizer, he absolutely exploded with rage. "Are you completely kidding me right now?" Marcus stood abruptly from his chair, his angry voice carrying clearly across the entire restaurant. "This custom jacket costs significantly more than you probably make in 6 months of work. Watch where you're going, you clumsy fool." Sarah's eyes immediately filled with tears as she stammered desperately, "I'm so terribly sorry, Mr. Wellington. Please let me help clean. Don't you dare touch anything else," Marcus snapped viciously, brushing off his sleeve with exaggerated dramatic gestures. "Just bring my expensive food and stay completely out of my way. How does this place even hire incompetent people like you?" The restaurant manager, Robert Chen, rushed over quickly to intervene. "Mr. Wellington, please accept our most sincere apologies for this incident. We'll gladly comp your entire expensive meal and—" "You're absolutely right, you will," Marcus interrupted rudely, "and maybe seriously consider hiring competent staff who can actually perform their basic jobs properly. This supposedly upscale place is clearly going downhill extremely fast." Other wealthy customers whispered among themselves, obviously uncomfortable with the increasingly hostile scene unfolding. A young couple at a nearby table shook their heads in visible disgust, while an elderly woman muttered something about absolutely no class despite all that dirty money. But Marcus didn't care about their opinions. He thrived on the fearful attention, the obvious terror in the staff's eyes, the way everyone scrambled desperately to please him. It validated his hard-earned success and reminded him how far he had risen above these common working people. Jennifer returned with his expensive wine, her hands visibly shaking with nervousness. "Your premium Bordeaux, sir." Marcus took a small sip and immediately grimaced with theatrical displeasure. "This wine is absolutely terrible quality. What kind of establishment serves such poor wine to paying customers? I should definitely report this place to food critics immediately." In the restaurant's busy industrial kitchen, Sofia Martinez worked quietly at the large stainless steel sink, her hands red and raw from the constantly scalding water and harsh chemical detergents. At 28 years old, she possessed a natural beauty that couldn't be dimmed by her worn work uniform or the exhaustion that clearly shadowed her intelligent dark eyes. She had been washing dishes at Bella Court for exactly 8 months now, working grueling double shifts every day to support her precious 6-year-old daughter, Emma. Every single plate she scrubbed, every heavy pot she cleaned, brought her incrementally closer to saving enough money for Emma's essential school supplies, and maybe eventually a better apartment in a much safer neighborhood. "Sophia, that awful Table 12 customer is causing serious problems again," Jennifer whispered urgently, as she brought back several barely touched expensive plates. "That horrible businessman is making absolutely everyone miserable tonight. I honestly don't know how much more abuse we can take from him." Sophia nodded sympathetically, her heart aching for her co-workers. She had overheard Marcus's cruel outbursts through the thin kitchen doors many times before. "I'm so sorry, Jennifer. Some wealthy people unfortunately forget that we're actual human beings just trying to make an honest living for our families." Through the small kitchen service window, Sophia caught brief glimpses of the dining room's obvious elegance. Sparkling crystal chandeliers, pristine white linen tablecloths, customers dressed in expensive designer clothes. It was a glamorous world that seemed impossibly distant from her harsh reality of constantly unpaid bills and sleepless nights spent worrying about Emma's uncertain future. Her old phone suddenly buzzed with a text message from her babysitter. "Emma finished all her homework perfectly. She drew you another beautiful picture tonight. She really misses you." Sophia's heart ached painfully as she looked at the attached photo of Emma's colorful drawing, two stick-figure women holding hands under a bright rainbow with "I love Mummy" written in careful crayon letters across the top. "Someday, very soon, Mija," Sophia whispered softly to herself, "Mommy will give you absolutely everything you deserve in this world." Marcus's explosive tirade reached its absolute peak when he discovered a tiny water spot on his expensive wine glass. "This is completely unacceptable," he shouted furiously, standing so abruptly his heavy chair toppled backward with a loud crash. "I demand to speak immediately to whoever's responsible for this disaster of a restaurant." Manager Robert Chen approached very cautiously, clearly nervous. "Mr. Wellington, perhaps we could resolve this more quietly. Absolutely no more pathetic excuses." Marcus stormed directly toward the kitchen, completely ignoring Robert's desperate protests. "I'm going to see exactly what kind of incompetent operation you're running back there." He burst through the heavy, swinging kitchen doors like an angry man possessed, startling all the busy kitchen staff. Professional chefs looked up from their cooking stations in complete alarm as Marcus surveyed the scene with obvious contempt and disgust. "So this is where all the magic supposedly happens," he sneered sarcastically. "No wonder the service is absolutely terrible tonight. Just look at this complete chaos." His angry eyes swept across the entire kitchen until they suddenly landed on Sophia working at the dish pit. She stood completely frozen, a clean plate in her soapy hands, meeting his intense gaze with quiet dignity, despite her obvious surprise at his intrusion. For one strange moment, something completely inexplicable happened. Marcus felt his angry words die completely in his throat as he took in her face, clearly exhausted but genuinely beautiful, proud despite her humble working position. There was something in her intelligent dark eyes that he hadn't seen in many years among his wealthy associates. Genuine inner strength without arrogance, natural beauty without vanity. "You," he started, then stopped completely, suddenly unsure of himself. Sophia straightened her shoulders with dignity. "Can I help you, sir?" Her voice was soft but remarkably steady, showing absolutely no fear despite his well-known reputation for cruelty. Marcus found himself studying her face carefully, noting the way she held herself with natural dignity, even while standing at a sink full of dirty dishes. Her calm presence somehow made his explosive anger seem petty and completely meaningless. I was," Marcus stammered awkwardly, completely thrown off his usual aggressive stride. The entire kitchen staff watched in complete amazement as the man known for his vicious tongue stood speechless before the quiet dishwasher. The busy kitchen fell completely silent, except for the steady drip of soapy water from Sophia's wet, gloved hands. Marcus stood transfixed, his usual commanding presence somehow diminished by her calm, unwavering gaze that seemed to see straight through him. "Sir, you really shouldn't be back here," Sophia said gently, her voice carrying absolutely no judgment despite witnessing his earlier cruel outbursts toward her colleagues. "The dining room is much more comfortable for customers." Her words snapped Marcus back to reality, but something fundamental had shifted inside him. Instead of his typical aggressive response, he found himself genuinely curious about this woman who showed such remarkable grace under obvious pressure. "What's your name?" he asked. his voice surprisingly quiet and respectful. "Sofia Martinez." She carefully set down the clean plate and faced him fully, removing her rubber gloves with practiced efficiency. "How long have you worked here at this restaurant?" 8 months exactly. She didn't elaborate unnecessarily, didn't complain about the long hours or difficult working conditions like he somehow expected. Marcus glanced around the industrial kitchen, suddenly seeing it completely differently. The heat was oppressive, the noise overwhelming, the physical work clearly backbreaking. Yet Sofia had answered his personal questions with dignity, never once asking why he was interrogating her or showing resentment for his earlier behavior. "Why?" he found himself asking before he could stop the words. "Why do you do this hard work?" Sofia's expression softened slightly. "Everyone has their personal reasons for working, Mr. Wellington. I imagine you have yours too." Her response caught him completely off guard. No one had spoken to him with such simple honesty in many years. His wealthy friends, business associates, even family members always had angles, hidden agendas, things they wanted from him. "I should go," Marcus said awkwardly, realizing he had been staring at her face. "Of course," Sofia nodded politely, already reaching for another dirty dish. "I hope you enjoyed your dinner tonight." As Marcus walked back through the elegant dining room, he couldn't shake the image of Sofia's face or the sound of her voice. For the first time in years, someone had looked at him without fear, greed, or calculation. Marcus left Bellacourt that night feeling strangely unsettled and confused. He drove his expensive BMW through Chicago's glittering downtown streets, but his thoughts kept returning obsessively to Sofia's calm dignity in the face of his kitchen intrusion. He had built his fortune by reading people instantly, yet she remained a complete mystery. Over the next week, he found increasingly weak excuses to return to the restaurant. He told himself it was about the excellent food, but deep down he knew he was desperately hoping for another glimpse of the woman who had somehow penetrated his armor of arrogance. His behavior toward the waitresses gradually began to soften noticeably. Jennifer noticed first when he actually said please while ordering his usual meal. Sarah was completely shocked when he apologized for bumping into her chair accidentally. The change was subtle, but undeniably real. "Thank you," he said quietly to Jennifer after she served his wine perfectly. Jennifer nearly dropped the expensive bottle in complete surprise. "You're very welcome, Mr. Wellington." During his 4th visit that week, Marcus lingered after finishing his meal, nursing a coffee he didn't actually want. Finally, he worked up the courage to approach manager Robert Chen directly. "The woman working in the kitchen," Marcus began carefully. "Sofia Martinez. How long did you say she's worked here?" Robert looked puzzled by the question. "About 8 months. She's honestly one of our most reliable employees. Never misses a shift, always punctual. Is there some problem?" "No problem whatsoever," Marcus said quickly. "Just curious, she seems very dedicated to her work." "Very much so. She works double shifts most days. I believe she's supporting a young daughter completely on her own." Robert paused, studying Marcus's unusually thoughtful expression. "She's a genuinely good person, Mr. Wellington. Quiet, hard-working, never complains despite some very difficult circumstances." Marcus nodded thoughtfully, processing this new information. A single mother working double shifts at minimum wage, yet she had treated him with more genuine respect than most of his millionaire associates ever showed each other. That night, lying in his luxurious penthouse apartment overlooking beautiful Lake Michigan, Marcus found himself wondering about Sofia's daughter and what kind of life they were building together. The following evening, Marcus made a completely impulsive decision. Instead of his usual expensive designer suit, he wore casual jeans and a simple button-down shirt. He arrived at Bellacourt near closing time, knowing the dinner rush would be completely over. "Mr. Wellington," Robert greeted him with obvious surprise. "We're nearly closed for the evening, but of course we can still seat you." "Actually," Marcus interrupted, "I was wondering if I could speak with Sofia Martinez, just briefly." Robert's eyebrows shot up in surprise, but he nodded professionally. "I'll ask if she's available to speak with you." Several moments later, Sofia emerged from the kitchen, having removed her work apron and hairnet. She looked younger somehow, her long dark hair falling softly around her shoulders. Marcus felt his breath catch unexpectedly. "You wanted to see me?" Sofia asked, maintaining a respectful distance between them. Marcus found himself struggling for words again. "I wanted to apologize for the other night barging into the kitchen. It was completely inappropriate. Sophia studied his face carefully, searching for sincerity. "That's very kind of you to say. Would you—" Marcus hesitated, feeling like a nervous teenager asking someone to prom. "Would you like to get coffee sometime just to talk?" Sophia's expression grew cautious and uncertain. "Mr. Wellington, I appreciate the gesture, but I don't think that's appropriate. You're a customer and You're a person," Marcus interrupted gently, "just like I am, despite what my terrible behavior might suggest." For a long moment, they looked at each other across the empty restaurant. Sophia saw something in his eyes she hadn't expected, genuine vulnerability beneath all the wealth and arrogance. "I have a daughter," Sophia said finally. "She comes first in absolutely everything I do." "I understand completely," Marcus nodded. "I respect that." Sophia made a decision that surprised even herself. "There's a small diner on Roosevelt Road, Maya's place. I sometimes stop there after work." "Tomorrow?" Marcus asked hopefully. "Tomorrow," Sophia agreed softly, wondering what exactly she was getting herself into. As she walked away, Marcus realized his hands were shaking slightly, a sensation he hadn't felt since closing his first $1 million deal. Maya's Diner was a complete world away from Marcus's usual upscale haunts. Cracked red vinyl booths, harsh fluorescent lighting, and the smell of cooking grease hung heavily in the air. He arrived early, wearing jeans and feeling oddly nervous in the working-class establishment. Sophia entered exactly on time, looking tired but beautiful in simple jeans and a soft sweater. She slid into the booth across from him, accepting a steaming coffee from Maya, the elderly Greek owner who seemed to know her well. "You look different," Sophia observed, noting his casual clothes. "So do you," Marcus replied, more relaxed. They sat in awkward silence for a moment before Sophia spoke directly. "Why did you want to meet me?" Marcus considered lying, giving some smooth business answer, but something about her direct gaze demanded complete honesty. "Because you're the first person in years who looked at me and didn't see a bank account." Sophia smiled slightly. "I saw someone who was very angry about a water spot on a glass." "Fair point." Marcus chuckled, surprising himself. "I wasn't at my best. We all have bad days." Sophia stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "What do you do when you're not terrorizing restaurant staff?" "I run a software company. We develop applications for businesses." Marcus found himself explaining his work simply, without his usual bragging about wealth and success. "That sounds interesting, challenging." "It is." Marcus paused. "What about you? Besides the restaurant, what do you want to do?" Sophia's eyes lit up for the first time. "I'm studying online, getting my accounting degree. Slowly, but I'm making progress. I want to give my daughter better opportunities than I had." Marcus felt something shift in his chest as he watched her face transform with hope and determination. "How old is your daughter?" "Emma's 6. She's brilliant, curious about everything. She wants to be a scientist or maybe a teacher." Sophia's voice filled with pride and love. Sitting in that humble diner, Marcus began to understand what real wealth looked like. Not the numbers in his bank account, but the love in Sophia's voice when she spoke about her daughter. Over the following weeks, Marcus and Sophia met regularly at Maya's Diner. Their conversations gradually moved from cautious small talk to deeper sharing. Marcus learned about Sophia's struggles, working multiple jobs after her ex-husband abandoned them, studying late into the night after Emma fell asleep, choosing between paying rent and buying groceries. "I don't understand," Marcus said one evening. "Why didn't you ask for help? Government assistance, family support?" Sophia's jaw tightened slightly. "My family immigrated from Mexico with absolutely nothing. They taught me that dignity comes from hard work, not handouts. And my ex made sure I understood I was worthless. I believed that for too long." Marcus felt a strange ache in his chest. Here was a woman working herself to exhaustion with more dignity than anyone in his social circle, yet she had been made to feel worthless by someone who should have protected her. "You're not worthless," Marcus said quietly. "You're raising a daughter alone while pursuing your education and maintaining 2 jobs. That's not worthless. That's extraordinary." Sophia looked at him with surprise. "Thank you. That means more than you know." As weeks passed, Marcus found himself changing in ways he didn't fully understand. He started treating service workers with respect, remembering their names, asking about their families. His assistant noticed he had stopped his habit of yelling when things went wrong. One evening, Sophia brought Emma to meet him. a serious little girl with her mother's intelligent eyes and a backpack full of books. "Are you Mommy's friend?" Emma asked directly. "I'd like to be," Marcus replied honestly. Emma studied him with 6-year-old intensity. "Mommy works very hard. She's tired a lot." "I know," Marcus said. "Your mom is the strongest person I've ever met." Emma nodded approvingly and returned to her homework, dismissing him as adults often were by children who had made their assessment. Watching Sophia help Emma with math problems, Marcus realized he was witnessing something he had never experienced: unconditional love that asked for nothing in return. The transformation was happening to both of them, though neither fully understood it yet. Everything changed on a rainy Thursday evening. Sophia didn't show up at Maya's diner, which was unusual since she was always punctual. Marcus waited an hour before driving to her apartment building in a modest neighborhood he had never visited. The building was old but clean, with narrow hallways and thin walls. He found her apartment number and knocked gently. Sophia opened the door looking exhausted and worried, Emma visible in the background at a small table. "Marcus, what are you doing here? You didn't come to the diner. I was worried." Sophia's shoulders sagged. "Emma's sick. High fever. Terrible cough. I can't afford to miss work, but I can't leave her alone either." Her voice cracked with stress. Marcus looked past her at the small apartment, clean but sparse, with Emma bundled in blankets on a worn couch, coloring books scattered around her. "What do you need?" Marcus asked. "Nothing," Sophia said automatically. "We'll be fine." "Sophia," Marcus said gently, "let me help." "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." Marcus stepped closer. "What would help right now?" Sophia's resistance crumbled. "The doctor. Emma needs to see a doctor, but the clinic won't see her without payment up front, and I don't get paid until Friday." Without hesitation, Marcus pulled out his phone. "What's the clinic's name?" 20 minutes later, they were at the Pediatric Urgent Care Center. Marcus handed his credit card to the receptionist, while Sophia held Emma, who was burning with fever. "I'll pay you back," Sophia whispered. "We'll talk about it later," Marcus replied, focused entirely on Emma's labored breathing. As they waited for the doctor, Emma looked up at Marcus with heavy eyes. "Are you going to help Mommy?" "If she'll let me," Marcus answered honestly. Emma nodded seriously and closed her eyes, trusting him completely in the way only children could. In that moment, Marcus realized he would do anything to protect this little family who had somehow become everything to him. Emma was diagnosed with pneumonia and prescribed antibiotics that cost more than Sophia made in a week. Marcus paid without hesitation, driving them home and stopping at the pharmacy, while Sophia carried her sleeping daughter upstairs. In Sophia's apartment, Marcus felt like he was seeing real life for the first time. The refrigerator had Emma's artwork taped to it, a small table served as both dining room and homework desk, and everything was carefully organized to maximize the tiny space. "I've never been in a home like this," Marcus admitted as Sophia tucked Emma into bed. "It's not much," Sophia said defensively. "No," Marcus shook his head. "I mean a home filled with love. My penthouse has everything money can buy, but it's never felt like this." Sophia returned to the living room, exhaustion written across her face. "I can't pay you back right away." "Stop," Marcus interrupted gently. "This isn't about money." "Then what is it about?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus moved closer, his usual confidence replaced by something raw and honest. "It's about the fact that I can't stop thinking about you, about how you've changed everything I thought I knew about success and happiness." Sophia stared at him, searching his face for deception or manipulation. Instead, she saw vulnerability that matched her own. "Marcus," she began carefully, "we come from completely different worlds." "Maybe that's exactly what we both need," Marcus replied. "You've shown me what really matters. You work harder than anyone I know. You've raised an incredible daughter on your own, and you've never once complained or asked for anything. Because I learned not to expect anything from anyone. Then let me be the exception," Marcus said softly. "Let me show you what it feels like to have someone who wants to give instead of take." Sophia felt tears threatening as years of walls began to crumble, replaced by something she had thought was impossible: hope. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I," Marcus admitted. "But I've never been more certain of anything in my life." As they looked into each other's eyes, both realized they were standing at the edge of something that would change their lives forever. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the same Bellacourt kitchen where he had first met Sophia, but everything had changed. The restaurant staff watched in amazement as the former tyrant helped serve a celebration dinner for Sophia's graduation. She had finally earned her accounting degree. "I still can't believe you bought the restaurant," Sophia laughed, wearing a beautiful dress that Marcus had insisted on buying for the occasion. "Someone had to make sure the staff gets proper respect and fair wages," Marcus grinned. "Besides, it's where I met the woman who saved my life." Emma, now healthy and glowing, tugged on Marcus's suit jacket. "When are you going to ask Mommy to marry you?" she demanded with 6-year-old directness. Sophia blushed deeply while Marcus knelt to Emma's eye level. "Actually, that's what tonight is about." He pulled out a small velvet box, his hands trembling slightly. The entire restaurant staff gathered around as Marcus took Sophia's hand. "Sophia Martinez, you taught me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in love, dignity, and the difference we make in each other's lives." Sophia's eyes filled with tears as Marcus continued. "You showed me that a person's worth isn't determined by their job title or bank account, but by the size of their heart and the strength of their character. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Sophia whispered, then louder, "Yes!" The restaurant erupted in cheers as Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger. Emma jumped up and down, clapping her hands with pure delight. As they kissed, surrounded by the very people Marcus had once treated with contempt, but who had now become like family, he realized he had finally found what he had been searching for his entire life. Not just success, but significance. 6 months later, Marcus and Sophia opened a program providing job training and childcare for single parents, with Emma as their inspiration and the Bellacourt staff as their first success stories. Love had transformed them both, proving that sometimes the most unlikely encounters lead to the most extraordinary endings. In learning to see Sophia's worth, Marcus had discovered his own.